parents always prioritized my sister over me, so when I got engaged they demanded I change my wedding date and venue to accommodate her needs, but I hung up and got married without them, which made the whole family furious. I never thought I'd have to share with strangers. The past few days have been a whirlwind of emotions, and I find myself more conflicted than ever before. Desperate times call for desperate measures, they say, and I guess that's why I'm reaching out to the Reddit community now. The events that have unfolded recently have left me questioning everything, and I just need to know, am I in the wrong here? For context, I, 26F, have been in a rift with my family ever since the day I was born. I grew up knowing that I wasn't the favorite child. My sister, Emily, 24F, was the center of my parents' world. I was the quiet, independent one, while Emily was the one who needed constant attention and validation. My parents catered to her every whim, and as a result, I often found myself left out, particularly when it came to significant moments in my life. When I was younger, I didn't understand why my parents missed out on my achievements. My school recitals, award ceremonies, and even birthdays often came and went without much acknowledgement from them. They always had an excuse: Emily wasn't feeling well, Emily had a dance recital, Emily had a meltdown and needed them. It became a pattern I grew accustomed to, but it still hurt. By the time I was a teenager, I had learned to stop expecting much from them. I poured myself into my studies and extracurricular activities, hoping to find validation elsewhere. I succeeded, earning scholarships and accolades, but my parents were usually too busy with Emily's latest crisis to notice. It wasn't that they didn't care at all, they just cared more about keeping Emily happy. My parents' absence was particularly glaring during my college years. I was accepted into a prestigious university, one of the top in the country. I was over the moon, but when I called my parents to share the news, their response was lukewarm. They congratulated me briefly before changing the subject to Emily's latest drama with her friends. They didn't attend my graduation either, claiming that they couldn't leave Emily alone. It was the same story when I got my first job offer. Pride in my achievement was overshadowed by their concern for Emily's fragile emotional state. Not even once they questioned why all of Emily's problems arose when I was about to have my moment. As the years passed, I realized that nothing I did would ever be enough to make my parents prioritize me over Emily. So, I stopped trying to win their approval. I focused on building a life of my own, surrounded by friends who appreciated me for who I was. I met my fiancé, Mark, during a business conference, and we quickly fell in love. He was everything I had ever wanted in a partner: kind, supportive, and understanding. He made me feel valued in ways my parents never had. When Mark proposed, I was ecstatic. I finally felt like I was the one who was being appreciated and cared for. We started planning our wedding, but I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that my parents would find a way to disappoint me yet again. I confided in Mark about my concerns, and he suggested that we have a small, intimate ceremony with just a few close friends and family. I agreed, knowing that it would minimize the chances of my parents missing out on yet another milestone in my life. As the wedding date approached, I debated whether to invite my parents at all. Part of me wanted them there, even if just for appearances, but another part of me feared they would decline or make excuses. I had not informed them very promptly after getting engaged, and I knew that it was a ticking bomb. In the end, I decided to be optimistic and call them. Mom picked up my call, and I told her that I had news. This time, I didn't have high expectations because my parents hadn't reacted well to any of my accomplishments. Why would their reaction to this be any different? And I was right. When I told them that I got engaged, their first question was, "To who?" As if they hadn't known that Mark and I had been dating for years. The casual disregard stung, but I forced myself to stay calm. I told myself to somehow get through this conversation and invite them. But then Mom asked, "When did this happen?" Her voice was a mix of curiosity and something else I couldn't quite place. I hesitated for a moment before answering. "It happened a while ago." Suddenly, the tone of the conversation shifted. Without warning, Mom started accusing me of being a bad daughter for not informing her right away. She went on about how I had always been distant, how I never considered her feelings, and how unfair it was that I kept such important news from them. Her words were like a knife, twisting the blame onto me as if I had committed some grave offense by not immediately running to them with my news. I tried to explain that Mark and I wanted to take some time to enjoy our engagement privately before announcing it, but she wouldn't hear it. Dad, who had been silent until then, chimed in, echoing Mom's sentiments. He said I had shown a complete lack of respect for them, and that it was just another example of how I had always chosen my own path without considering the family. Their reaction wasn't just disappointing, it was infuriating. Here I was, excited to share one of the happiest moments of my life, and instead of congratulations or joy, I was met with criticism and guilt. The more they spoke, the more I realized that this conversation was never going to go the way I had hoped. It didn't matter what I said or how I tried to justify my actions, they were determined to make me feel like I was in the wrong. But what came next was the final straw. After their endless blame and guilt, Mom's tone suddenly softened, almost as if she were trying to offer an olive branch. She said that they were willing to come to the wedding, but only if I made some adjustments according to Emily's needs. The words hung in the air, heavy with the implication that once again, my life's most important moments had to be tailored to suit my sister. They wanted me to change the date, the venue, even the guest list, anything to ensure that Emily was comfortable and happy. It was as if my wedding was just another event that needed to revolve around her. That was the end of my patience. I realized that no matter how hard I tried to include them, no matter how much I bent over backward, it would never be enough. They would always prioritize Emily, and I would always be the one expected to make sacrifices. Without another word, I hung up the phone. I didn't call them back, and they didn't reach out to me either. At that moment, I knew that inviting them would only bring more pain and disappointment. Mark and I proceeded with our plans, focusing on what truly mattered, celebrating our love with the people who genuinely cared about us. I had finally put my foot down, and while it hurt to cut that cord, it was also liberating. I wasn't going to let them ruin another moment in my life. When the wedding day arrived, it was everything I had dreamed of and more. Surrounded by those who loved us unconditionally, Mark and I exchanged our vows in a ceremony that was intimate, joyful, and free from the toxic dynamics that had plagued so much of my past. Mark's family stood by my side through this tough time and made me feel like I finally belonged somewhere. It was a day filled with laughter, tears of happiness, and the warmth of true family, something I had longed for but never truly experienced with my parents. Some of my relatives, who were in rare numbers might I add, started to talk about why my parents and sister weren't there. I didn't want to get into this matter way too much, but to avoid the image of an ignorant daughter who didn't invite my poor family, I told one of my relatives about what had happened when I told my parents I got engaged. Some of my relatives, though they were in rare numbers, I might add, started to whisper among themselves, questioning why my parents and sister weren't there. I didn't want to delve too deeply into the matter on my wedding day, but I could sense the judgment in their eyes. They saw me as the ignorant daughter who didn't invite her poor family to such an important occasion. To avoid that image and set the record straight, I decided to confide in one of my relatives who approached me with a concerned look. I told her about what had happened when I informed my parents that I got engaged, their cold reaction, their refusal to attend unless everything was tailored to Emily, and the final conversation that ended with me hanging up the call. I explained how their demands had pushed me to a breaking point, leaving me no choice but to move forward without them. As I spoke, I could see the shift in her expression from concern to understanding. She nodded slowly, realizing that this wasn't a simple case of a daughter neglecting her parents, but rather a culmination of years of favoritism and emotional manipulation. It wasn't long before the story began to circulate among the guests, and the whispers gradually turned into murmurs of support and sympathy. By the end of the day, the narrative had changed. Instead of being seen as the daughter who left her family behind, I was recognized as someone who had finally stood up for herself. It wasn't the way I had envisioned my wedding day unfolding, but it was a necessary step in reclaiming my life and my happiness. After the wedding, word quickly spread through our extended family about my parents' absence. It wasn't just a few whispers, it was a wildfire of gossip that ignited old suspicions. Relatives who had always suspected favoritism were now openly criticizing my parents for their blatant neglect. What had once been a well-guarded secret within our immediate family was now out in the open for everyone to see. My parents, who had always been so careful to maintain their image as the perfect, doting parents, were now facing scrutiny and judgment from those they had tried so hard to impress. It didn't take long for the calls and messages to start flooding in. My parents were livid, not because they had missed my wedding, but because they were being shamed by the rest of the family. Their tone was more desperate than I had ever heard before, filled with a mixture of frustration and indignation. They were scrambling to justify their actions, trying to shift the blame onto me as if I were the one who had wronged them. They claimed that I should have been more understanding of Emily's needs and that it was my responsibility to make sure she was comfortable and happy at my wedding. According to them, I was the one who had failed by not accommodating their demands, by not bending over backward to ensure that their golden daughter was satisfied. The audacity of their reasoning was almost laughable, but what really got to me was their insistence that I had caused a rift in the family by going through with the wedding without them. They tried every tactic they could think of: guilt tripping, manipulation, even bringing up past grievances that had nothing to do with the current situation. They wanted me to feel as though I was the one who had torn the family apart, that my decision to prioritize my own happiness was somehow selfish and cruel. But this time, their words didn't have the power they once did. I wasn't that little girl anymore, desperately seeking their approval and willing to do anything to get it. I was done feeling guilty for wanting to be treated with the same respect and consideration as Emily. For once, I stood my ground. I refused to let them twist the narrative to make me the villain in my own story. My wedding day was supposed to be about celebrating my love for Mark, and I was glad I didn't let my parents ruin that for me. It was a day filled with joy, laughter, and love, a day that I will always cherish, regardless of their absence. So, Reddit, what do you think? Ida for going ahead with my wedding without sending an invite to my parents, and for not accommodating their golden daughter's demands? Update 1. Thank you all for your overwhelming support and kind words. Reading your responses has been both comforting and eye-opening. I've always known that my parents favored Emily, but seeing so many people affirm that my feelings are valid has helped me feel more confident in my decision. I wanted to share a bit more background, as some of you asked about Emily and why my parents have always been so focused on her. Growing up, Emily had some emotional and behavioral issues that required a lot of attention. My parents were constantly worried about her and did everything they could to make her life easier. They justified their favoritism by saying that Emily needed them more than I did because I was the strong one who could handle things on my own. But as we got older, it became clear that my parents' approach didn't really help Emily. Instead, it turned her into someone who expected the world to revolve around her. She's had a string of failed relationships, and she's never been able to hold down a job for more than a few months. My parents continue to bail her out of every situation, and they've never held her accountable for her actions. For years, I tried to understand their perspective. I told myself that Emily's challenges were the reason my parents focused so much on her, that it was out of necessity rather than choice. Every time she stumbled, my parents were right there to catch her, to the point where she never learned how to stand on her own 2 feet. They've never held her accountable for her actions, and she's grown up believing that no matter what, she'll always have someone to clean up her messes. In contrast, and I do not mean this as a brag, but I've worked hard to build a stable life for myself. I put myself through college, working multiple jobs to make ends meet. I've never asked my parents for anything, not even when I was struggling financially. I think that's part of why they don't see me as a priority. I've never needed them in the same way Emily does, so they assume I'm fine without them. In their eyes, I'm the one who has it all together, the one who doesn't need the same level of support. But what they don't realize is that everyone, even the strong one, needs love and care too. After the wedding, Emily sent me a text saying that she was hurt I didn't include her in the wedding party and that she felt excluded. The irony of it all nearly made me laugh. Here she was, playing the victim once again as if the entire wedding was supposed to be centered around her. I was tempted to respond, to explain why I had made the choices I did, but I decided against it. I don't have the energy to deal with her self-centeredness right now. It's always been about her, and I'm tired of being the one who has to cater to her every whim. Mark has been incredibly supportive through all of this. He keeps reminding me that I don't have to explain myself to anyone, especially not to those who have always put me last. His words have been a constant source of comfort, and I'm so grateful to have him by my side during this time. My parents have continued to reach out, leaving voicemails and sending messages, but I haven't responded to them either. Every time my phone buzzes, I feel a pang of guilt, but then I remind myself that this time is for me. I'm taking some time to focus on myself and my new marriage. Mark and I are planning a small getaway, just the 2 of us, away from all the drama, and I'm excited to start this new chapter of my life without the constant shadow of my parents' favoritism hanging over me. This whole experience has been a wake-up call. I've realized that I can't keep sacrificing my own happiness to appease others, especially those who don't value me the way I deserve to be valued. I'm learning to set boundaries, to prioritize my own needs, and to finally put myself first. It's a process, and it's not always easy, but I'm hopeful that this is the beginning of a much healthier and happier life. So thank you again, Reddit, for helping me see things more clearly. Your support means more to me than you'll ever know. Update 2. A few days ago, I finally decided to meet with my parents. I thought it might be a chance to clear the air and set some boundaries. I wasn't looking for an apology, I knew better than to expect that, but I hoped we could at least have an honest conversation about how their favoritism has affected me. Deep down, I still harbored a faint hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd listen and try to understand where I was coming from. In the days leading up to this meeting, I started hearing more from my relatives. Despite my efforts to stay out of the family drama, my cousin Alex, who has always been more like a sister to me, reached out. She said there were things I needed to know about Emily, and what she told me left me reeling. After I went to college, Emily tried to improve her bond with Alex, and they started hanging out a lot. Alex even introduced Emily to her friend group, a bunch of rich, well-connected people. Emily, never one to miss an opportunity to climb the social ladder, quickly tried to fit in. It started with borrowing clothes and accessories from Alex, which seemed harmless enough. But soon, it escalated. Emily began throwing parties at Alex's place, without even asking, and started borrowing money from her as well. But the worst part was what Emily did to Alex's relationship. There was a guy in Alex's friend group that she had been interested in for a long time. When she confided in Emily about her feelings, Emily wasted no time making a move on him. She spent all her time talking to him, even spreading lies about Alex to get closer to him. Although Alex and the guy eventually got together after clearing up the misunderstandings, Emily wasn't done. She tried to sabotage their relationship by making a move on him herself. When he rejected her and made it clear he was committed to Alex, Emily retaliated by telling him that Alex had cheated on him. The lies and manipulation eventually led to their breakup, with Alex heartbroken and devastated. Hearing this, I lost whatever respect I had left for Emily. I hadn't planned on bringing it up to anyone, but it solidified my resolve. I knew that no matter what my parents said during our meeting, nothing would change my view of Emily or their treatment of me. The meeting didn't go as planned. In fact, it was a disaster from the moment I walked in and saw that Emily was there too. It had been years since I'd had a conversation with her, mainly because her words were always dripping with manipulation or self-pity, and I simply couldn't bear it. But there she was, sitting with our parents, looking like she had been through the worst betrayal imaginable. Her presence made it clear that this wasn't going to be a conversation about my feelings or my experiences. It was going to be all about Emily, as usual. As soon as I opened my mouth to speak, my parents pounced. They started guilt-tripping me about the wedding, claiming they were shocked and disappointed that I hadn't invited them to their own daughter's special day. They accused me of being inconsiderate of Emily's feelings, saying that many of our family members had been rude to her and that I should have taken her emotions into account when planning my wedding. I tried to explain that this was my day, a day that was supposed to be about me and Mark, not Emily, but it was like talking to a brick wall. They simply couldn't or wouldn't see it from my perspective. When I brought up how their blatant favoritism had hurt me over the years, they became defensive. They insisted that they had done their best given the circumstances and that I should be more empathetic to Emily's struggles. My one and only question was, what struggles? That she was way too pampered? But they kept turning the conversation back to her as if she were the only person in the family whose feelings mattered. My father even tried to paint me as the unreasonable one, saying that I was being too sensitive and that I needed to let go of the past. The final straw came when my mother accused me of punishing them by going ahead with the wedding without accommodating Emily. She said I should have postponed the wedding until a time when Emily was more stable, and that by not doing so, I had pushed them away. Emily chimed in, implying that I had deliberately excluded her from the wedding to hurt her and that she had been deeply wounded by my actions. Her crocodile tears and exaggerated expressions of betrayal were almost laughable if they weren't so infuriating. And that's when I broke. I told my parents everything Alex had shared with me about Emily's behavior, how she had betrayed our cousin, spread lies, and destroyed relationships out of sheer selfishness. I know it might sound like I was snitching, but I was done listening to their elaborate excuses for Emily's behavior. For once, I wanted them to hear the truth about their golden child. My parents listened in shocked silence. Emily also seemed a little embarrassed. But it didn't last long. After a few moments, they started to quiet down, as if they were actually processing what I'd said. But just as I thought I might have gotten through to them, they turned the blame back on me and on Alex. They accused us of conspiring against Emily, of trying to turn the family against her. They refused to believe that Emily could be capable of such things, instead insisting that Alex and I were just jealous and resentful of Emily's special needs. At that moment, the weight of all the years of feeling unseen and unheard by my parents hit me with full force. As I sat there, listening to their feeble justifications and their continued insistence that I should prioritize Emily's needs over my own, something inside me shifted. It was as if a fog lifted, and I could see the situation with perfect clarity. No matter what I said or did, they would never see me for who I truly was or appreciate the efforts I had made to build a life of my own. The realization was both painful and liberating. I had spent so much of my life trying to gain their approval, hoping that one day they would recognize my worth. But at that moment, I understood that their favoritism wasn't something I could change. It wasn't about me or anything I had done, it was about their inability to see beyond Emily's needs and struggles. They had cast me in the role of the strong one, the daughter who could handle anything on her own, and they were never going to allow me to step out of that role. As they continued to defend Emily, even after I had revealed her betrayal of Alex, I realized that their denial ran deep. They would rather blame me, Alex, or anyone else than face the truth about their precious Emily. It was then that I knew any hope of a real, honest relationship with my parents was gone. They were too entrenched in their narrative, too committed to protecting Emily at all costs. I left that meeting very soon after that. I didn't want to reconcile anymore. The conversation had made it clear that any hope of mending things was futile. I told my parents that it was different now than when I was a kid, when they could ignore me and still expect me to come back. Now, I had a family of my own, and I had built a life where their presence was no longer necessary or even desired. If I didn't need them at my wedding, I certainly didn't need them in my life going forward. In the days that followed, the sense of closure grew stronger. I focused on my new life with Mark and the future we were building together. There are bigger things to take care of now. Let's see what happens now. Update 3. Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I wanted to give you one last update on what's been happening in my life. Mark and I are settling into our new routine and enjoying our time together. We've been focusing on building our lives and making the most of our fresh start. On the family front, I'd almost given up hope for any improvement. I thought that after the way things ended, there would be no chance of reconciliation. However, out of the blue, my dad called me. I couldn't pick up his call immediately because I was at work, but he left me a voice message. In it, he said he hoped I was doing well and that he was sorry for everything that had happened. Later that day, I called him back. He seemed genuinely remorseful and shared that he had heard a lot of things from family and friends about Emily that had shocked him. It turns out that a lot of the extended family had been talking about Emily's issues and the impact they had on others, including Alex. Dad admitted that he was stunned by the depth of Emily's behavior and how it had affected those around her. He told me that while he didn't expect me to forgive him right away, he still wanted to be part of my life. He also mentioned that my mom was still completely focused on Emily and was in denial about the situation. Apparently, Mom hadn't been aware of all the issues involving Emily and was still convinced that her daughter could do no wrong. Ignorance really is bliss, it seems. Dad said he understood if I wasn't ready to rebuild our relationship and that he was prepared to accept whatever decision I made. He expressed a genuine desire to mend things and be present in my life, even if it took time. This was the first time in a long while that I felt a hint of hope about my relationship with my parents. Mark and I talked about it, and we both agreed that it would be worth considering a cautious approach. We're not ready to jump back into a close relationship with my parents right away, but we are open to slowly rebuilding some kind of connection. It's going to take time, and it will be a careful process, but having my dad reach out with an apology and a desire to make amends has given me a bit of hope. I'm still processing everything, and it's strange to think about what the future might hold. I'm trying to focus on the positive changes in my life and the new chapter I'm building with Mark. I'm also taking it one step at a time with my parents, trying to balance my own healing with the possibility of reconnecting. Thank you all so much for your support and advice throughout this journey. Your words have been a huge comfort and have helped me stay grounded. I'm grateful for the community here and for all the perspectives shared. It's been a challenging time, but I feel like I'm finally moving towards a place where I can embrace my future with hope and confidence. So, that's where things stand right now. I'm taking things slowly and trying to make the best decisions for myself and my family. Thanks again for being a part of this journey with me. I'll keep you updated if there are any more changes. Take care, everyone.